I'm Lisa Berberette, the Pumpkin Lady, and the series of YouTube how-to videos to celebrate my 10th anniversary as a pro carver is all about the basics of pumpkin carving. Now, in our first two videos, we talked about picking out the perfect pumpkin and degooing the pumpkin. Now, that kind of gross process, but a little bit fun, is over with. It's time to do part 3, which is applying the pattern. Now, I've already chosen one of my patterns. This is from www.pumpkinlady.com. This is actually one of the free patterns on there, so you're welcome to go and download it. And we're going to do this pattern and carve it onto our pumpkin. Now, before we tape it onto the pumpkin, here's a little trick. As you can see, pumpkins aren't square. They're not flat. They don't match my cute little shaped piece of paper. So, and I know everybody panics at this, don't start ripping your pattern. It's okay. A little smile is not going to turn to a frown. Nobody's going to start crying. You can warn the kids before you start doing this. But what happens is, as I make these little tears around, it's going to make it nice and easy to conform that right to the shape of my very round and groovy pumpkin. So now that I have it torn, I'm going to find generally, well, this is a nice round pumpkin, but it has a little bit of a flatter side right here. We're going to put it on that side, just because it'll make it a little bit easier to put the pattern on and carve it out. So, the next step, tape it onto your pumpkin. I know that some people like to draw patterns right onto the pumpkin with a magic marker. The only thing is that once you start carving it, that area starts to get a little wet, and you end up wearing more of the marker than the pumpkin does, and it will get on your clothing. So I still kind of like the old-fashioned way of taping the pattern right on, and we're going to poke it out. Now, a lot of the tools kits to come today, find my tools here, with these little poking tools. Now, some people use thumbtacks or pins or nails, but these come in the kit, and now they are a little sharp, so you gotta be careful if you have little ones around, because they're meant to poke the pumpkin and not the kid next to you. So, all you need to do is just start following that line right around, just barely poking into the pumpkin. Now, one thing I see a lot of children do, and you don't want to do this, they try to force it all the way in as hard as you can. Only this very tiny, maybe the 1/8 of a tip, just needs to go right into the surface of your pumpkin, just enough to transfer that design right on. Now, some of the tools today come with these little rotary pokers. These are really awesome, because if you have a really intricate design, hand poking can make your hand kind of tired after a while. With this kind, you can simply roll the holes right onto it. As you can see, I can go very quickly this way to apply the pattern. Now, here's a great tip. I'm kind of at this point following right along the line, but usually if I take a little bit more time, I try to do it just inside that line, right inside that area I want to carve out. That way, when it's time to carve, I carve just on the outside of that, and those little holes never appear in the final carving. Now, to get around those teeth, I'm going to go back to this little tiny poking tool. And if you're brand new at doing this, you might want to keep poking these holes very close together, maybe 1/8 to 1/4 inch apart. It's also great to do if you have a more intricate pattern. If you have something as simple as this and you've done it before, you can start spacing them maybe every 1/4 to 1/2 inch, just to make it a little easier on you. Now, as you can see, that was very quick for me to do, so I can take this right off now, and I can see the pattern on here. You might not be able to, or maybe it's dim, the light's starting to go down. A lot of us do pumpkin carving in the evening, and you're having trouble seeing the pattern. Well, that's okay. Take a little flour, cornstarch, or baby powder, and if you rub it into the design, like magic, all those little holes will start to pop right off the pumpkin, and now you can see exactly where you need to carve, and this pumpkin is ready for the next step of using these little carving saws to carve out the perfect pumpkin. So stay tuned for our next video, and I'll show you how to do that. Until then, if you would like to get this pattern, please visit www.pumpkinlady.com for that pattern, and there's about 100 or so more on there. I'm Lisa Berberette, the Pumpkin Lady. Happy carving!